This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast. Thanks.
You're welcome.
How are you?
Oh, wait. I'm good. It's so nice out. It's 50 degrees.
That counts as nice.
The sun is out.
Yes.
It's great. How was your trip to Florida?
Excellent. Didn't even need a jacket. That was nice.
Well,
I still
Florida.
need one here.
That's sort of the only thing
I
they have
know.
going for them.
It was good. People were nice. The talk was fun. It was good. And speaking of which, I'm going to get some personal stories out of the way. Next weekend, on March 29th, that weekend anyway, I'll be in Madison, Wisconsin, giving a talk at Freethought Festival.
Oh,
it's
nice.
their 8th annual Freethought Festival. I'm speaking Saturday afternoon. There's a bunch of awesome people who are speaking all weekend. The event is free of charge, and it's in Madison, at the University of Madison in Wisconsin. So
Cool.
If you're in the area, check it out. And I'll go ahead and say my other thing, which is I'm working on 2 new projects that are totally separate from this podcast and kind of separate from the
I don't
website.
think I have the space here.
I know.
This is more about
I'm
our
using
projects and my
using
personal
my
projects.
thing. So here's the first project.
Yeah.
One is a bunch of people who maybe listen to this podcast know me because of a YouTube channel that I used to make a bunch of videos for, The Atheist Voice. We haven't posted videos on there in a long time, partly because I'm in the middle of a move and partly because I figured, I spend a lot of my time talking about current events with you and writing about them, not as much of the Atheism 101 stuff that we used to do on the Atheist Voice channel. So unofficially anyway, I think we're going to kind of close that channel down, but I am going to work on a different series that I hope will start in a few months, and it'll kind of be a rundown, kind of about the stuff we talk about on this podcast.
Sorry, are you trying to split our listenership?
That's exactly what I'm doing. But on YouTube, it's a different crowd. Some people like getting their stuff on YouTube. And so it's kind of a condensation of stuff I write about during the week, similar to the show, but not exactly what we do on this show. And so that's one project I'm going to work on later this summer.
Cool.
And the other one is maybe more of a long-term thing, which is I really want to dig deep into some of the church-state separation cases that have been at the Supreme Court level and that have actually these long histories that we never really get into because who cares what happened 100 years ago? Let's talk about the case at hand.
Right.
But those stories are really lengthy, but they need to be told, and I'm really curious about them. And I don't just want to read it for myself. I want to read it, research it, share it with all of you too. And so this is more of I don't know how long those episodes will be. I don't know how long it'll take to make, but I want to work on those.
Cool.
And so for both of those projects, here's where I'm totally using the privilege of this platform. If you want to support any of those projects or get early access to those projects, I'm asking you to go to my personal Patreon page. I know.
Bullshit.
I know. It's patreon.com/Hemant, He-Man-T. There you go. You could read all the things there, like this is what you give for early access to stuff or get in the credits for them. Any support you give there, it's separate from this show. I appreciate it, but there you go.
And the separation church and state one, is that also going to be a YouTube series?
That is probably only going to be a podcast. I was actually inspired by more of a hardcore history, that show where this guy goes on 5-hour explanatory things about some issue in history, but then he does like 5 episodes of them, and it's like, this is 25 hours long, but I'm also still paying attention.
Cool.
I really like what he does, Dan Carlin, on that show, but this is some version of that. I don't know how long these will be. It depends on what I find, but it's one of those, like, if I'm taking time away from the website to work on that, I need to also make sure like someone's actually listening. Otherwise, I'm better off spending my time writing more posts.
Gotcha.
So this is kind of the compromise.
Well, cool. Good luck.
Thanks.
Let me know how I can help.
Again, patreon.com/Hemant if you want to support those projects, but we also support this podcast.
Yeah, those projects don't put food in Daddy's belly.
That is true.
So if you want to support us, patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast.
That is
also
accurate.
support Hemant, but also support us too. So this was not the craziest week we've had in a long time. I feel like this is the first week that there were no like literal or metaphorical explosions.
Yeah, there's no like overarching story that takes over everything,
You know
but there
what?
are a bunch of important one still, but like, yeah, it wasn't, oh my God, this is happening right now.
You know, it's such a testament to how quickly the news cycle is happening because we recorded, today's Friday, the 22nd, we recorded last Thursday. And I feel like Friday, a bunch of shit went down. Like,
right, we didn't get to talk about it because it happened over the weekend.
Yeah,
early.
Exactly. So I don't even have any, it's like how fast the news cycle went. I don't have any notes about like the New Zealand shooting.
Right, that happened that night, I believe. So, yeah, we haven't talked about that. And we'll mention it in the sense of things that have happened since then. But let me start off with something happy. We'll get back to the shooting in a little bit. But this is news as of like later this week. There is a thing called the General Social Survey that is kind of a large-scale survey about everything. And they just came out with 2018 data. And when it comes to religion, this is the interesting takeaway from these numbers. People without any organized religion, the nuns, and that's atheists, agnostics, Christians who don't want to call themselves any denomination, whatever, that group of nuns is now statistically tied for the largest demographic in America. Yeah, and that is tied with Catholics and roughly tied with evangelical Christians. I mean, we're all at like 23%, give or take the margin of error. And the difference is they're all on the downswing, slow, but growing. And we're leaping up really fast. So one professor who they spoke to in a couple of these articles about it said, give it like 5 years and the no religion group will be way dominant compared to these other ones.
I don't know if you have these facts in front of you, but I'm curious if, like, where did those growth numbers come from? Are we leeching off specifically Catholics and evangelicals, or are we, like, taking away from, like, Muslims, Hindus?
It's a really good question. So the Catholics and evangelicals have been slowly going down. I saw one Christian article that said evangelicals have been relatively steady for the past several years.
Because they have so many children. Statistically, they're going to renew their population.
Yeah, they have more kids than we do. Catholics have a lot more kids than atheists do, statistically speaking. However, most of our growth is coming from mainline Protestants more than anything else. These are the Christians who are not evangelicals.
Very specific.
Yeah, it's basically the Christians who are not evangelical. We get the Presbyterians, we get the Lutherans, the Methodists, what have you. That's where a good chunk of it's coming from. Yeah, there's some Catholics heading in our direction, some evangelicals. But honestly, the other ones you mentioned, like Muslims, Jews, it's not like they had that many, statistically speaking, for us to siphon off of.
Right.
So the people who end up coming to the no religion camp seem to be a lot of disenfranchised Christians who are like, the hell are you doing with my religion, conservatives?
Yeah.
I want no part of this group, even though I believe in God.
And that makes sense. That sort of more like non-evangelical Christians, that's an easier shift from like, my family's Lutheran, we do Christmas and Easter Mass. That's enough of that. Like that's such an easier transition because you probably don't have to like quote unquote come out to your family. It's probably an easier step to
like a cultural Christian is easier to be.
For sure.
And so it seems like that's where a lot of our growth is coming from. And also, I think there's a lot of people who might call themselves any one of these religious denominations. But honestly, if you ask them, like, so what is it that you believe? They're like, well, I believe in God, just not all the Bible stuff or the stuff in whatever holy book. And no, I don't think the communion wafer is literally... I mean, they are Catholic if you ask them to give me a name, but they don't really believe. And some of them are now coming to terms with... You know what? I think I can just say I'm not religious. So I think that's also part of the growth, that we've been there all along.
Yeah.
And now some of them are more likely to recognize it.
Yeah, and I think that's why doing things like this, I feel like
like the podcast.
Like the podcast. Like we get a lot of guff. Not us personally, but like atheists in general. It's just me personally. Yeah. We got a lot of guff of like, oh, if you're an atheist, like, why does it matter? Why do you? All it is it's important to put yourself out there in a way that other people can see and see examples of like, oh, there's people in the world who aren't Christian and still have morals, or aren't Christian, period. And just visibility matters. So.
Yeah, visibility is huge. Again, it's realizing, oh, yeah, no, I match what you guys are saying, or insert any atheist here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, I align with that.
Did that sound too self-congratulatory?
Yes.
It wasn't a good
I'm
look.
judging you.
Okay.
And keep in mind that two of the largest religious denominations in the country, Catholics and Southern Baptists, like the two religious kings in terms of numbers, both of them have their own sex scandals, abuse scandals that are going on as we speak. And you have to imagine a whole bunch of those people are going to be like, I want no part in this organization.
Right.
And again, they're not becoming atheists, but they're like, don't call me a Southern Baptist. I just believe in God, but I have no affiliation with them. I think that's going to happen more. So interesting.
I think generationally, if you are like, I'm still a Christian, but I don't affiliate with the church anymore, because it's probably more likely that their kids would probably be less religious.
And they did. I didn't look up the age separations here, but I have to imagine that again, younger people, this is no religion is the highest on the list, and that the numbers I'm talking about, where everyone's at like 23%, that's when you include everybody. And that age level goes up when we're talking about these religious groups. So, interesting. Since you mentioned the attacks in New Zealand, here's a story that happened later this week that is not directly with the shooting, but it does concern the stuff we talk about. So, the Atheist Society of Calgary, local group in Canada, they invited a speaker to come give a talk at Mount Royal University. His name is Armin Navabi. He runs a group on Facebook called the Atheist Republic. He does a lot of activism. He's an ex-Muslim. He talks about Islam. He's critical of Islam. So he was going to give a talk there. And at like almost the last second, the school sent the organization an email. Here's what they said. In light of the shooting last week and the responses to the event we have received from students and staff, we are going to have to cancel hosting your event with Armin on campus on Thursday. And here's the thing. So they ended up finding a space for him to speak at a different off-campus location. He still gave a talk. But this idea that, well, look, this shooting happened. There were Muslim victims. So your guy who's critical of Islam, we're going to say he can't talk here. That, to me, seems like it's completely overstepping the bounds of what they ought to be doing. It's not like he was going up there and saying, oh, those victims, they were wrong and dumb. That's not what he was doing. And the question that I've been struggling to try to find an answer, and I haven't gotten one yet, is from the school, when's a good time to criticize Islam or religion in general? Because I don't think you're ever going to get that. I think if Armin's going to speak there ever, you're going to have people who criticize him because he's criticizing Islam, and they want to protect an already oppressed minority group, which is true. Muslims get a lot of shit. And they got to deal with a lot of shit, but it doesn't mean you can't criticize their beliefs. That you could say the same thing about any religious group. What I don't know is, okay, school, tell me what a good time is for him to come, because they did not say. They said we're going to postpone this now and maybe we'll figure out a date. They didn't say indefinitely.
Oh, no?
They said in the future you could have him speak here on campus, but they didn't give a date. And like, of course they didn't give a date because they don't. I don't think they want him to come. Period. And Armin's response was like, I'm quoting, what do they want? Do you want to have less conversation? Isn't less conversation exactly what leads people having extreme radical positions? I mean, having more conversations is exactly what you need in the face of some tragedy like this. And I agree with him on that. To say that the shooter went after Muslims and, oh, look, this speaker has a problem with Islam. And again, you could disagree with his take on it. That's not the issue here. But to almost conflate those two as if they're coming from anywhere in the same vicinity of, here's why I have a problem with Islam, you're coming from two very different places here. No one's condoning what the terrorists did or said or any of his thing. That's coming from a place of hate and bigotry. I feel like the criticism of Islam that Armin would be talking about, and I don't know what he was going to say. Maybe he says something that I think is crossing the line. I don't know. But he lived it, a form of it, and he's speaking out against what he considers to be the problems with Islam as a religion. Again, I see that there has to be a place for that, because if you say he can't talk, what happens to the next person next atheist who says, I want to just criticize religion in general, or I have a problem with evangelical Christianity or whatever? Where does that end?
So I'm sympathetic to the decision that the school made because I feel like in their mind it's bad optics to have an attack on a Muslim population and then immediately have somebody coming in who is being critical. And I'm not saying that that's the right decision. I am sympathetic to why they felt like they needed to make that decision. That said, I think the most important thing you said is that what motivated the shootings in New Zealand are completely different than what the speaker is trying to do. Mm-hmm. The motivation for the attacks in New Zealand were Islamophobic for sure, but I would argue more so they were racist and anti-immigrant. I think that Muslim is often shorthand for many people for brown. Mm-hmm. And because this last generation, there was a big Muslim immigration population in the U.S. and elsewhere. I think those two things get conflated. So sometimes I think when people talk about their fear of Muslims or their fear of Islam, they're generally talking more of their fear of otherness at all. You know what I mean? Like just generally otherness, and it's easy to pin that on something. So, yeah, I mean, the shooter said point blank that he was motivated by the things, white nationalism and things like that we've seen with the Trump administration and everybody like that. But, yeah, I completely agree. I do think that it is well within anybody's rights, and it's important to give platforms to people who are being critical of something that might otherwise be kind of impervious to criticism.
Keep in mind that this sort of talk gets booked well in advance. It's not like they did this in light of the shooting.
Right.
Not that I would have necessarily had a problem with that either, because again, it's a talk about religion. Right. College campuses are places to have those type of controversial talks.
Right.
I have a problem with a lot of the deplatforming stuff in general. I'd rather people take it up with the speaker during the Q&A, rip them apart in the Q&A because they always have a chance for that. But to say no, and they didn't say no because of this thing you said or this thing you're going to say. Right. They just said no. Like you said, it's the optics. It is. That's a bad reason to cancel it.
It is a bad reason, but I do. It's not one of those things that why would you ever do? I understand the conversation that happened behind closed doors. That said, I think a better decision would have been if they felt like they couldn't hold it this week. Let's bump it back a week. Let's bump it back a month. Give a new time.
And even if they did that, though, whoever complained about him speaking in the first place, they're still going to complain.
Do you think people complained, or do you think it was an internal sort of...
The school said, we got letters from students, and they said they got responses from students and staff. That's their wording. I don't know what they got. Okay. But again, I don't think those criticisms are, you shouldn't have him this week. Is my guess.
Yes. No, I think you're right.
If they're complaining, they're like, how dare you allow this man to come on campus, period. And not, this is really bad timing. I doubt that's the response.
No, I think you're right. And I feel weird defending the school because I do think what they did was wrong, but I think it's not a completely black and white issue. I think it was people doing their best and didn't do anyone's best, really.
Yeah. Yes. Here's a totally different story here. LifeWay, the biggest Christian retailer in the country, is shutting down every one of its brick and mortar stores. Every one of them. You are going to have to buy your Christians elsewhere.
Even the one in Gold Coast, which has always baffled me.
All of them.
Have you ever been to that or been by that one?
Not to the one in downtown Chicago.
Yeah, there's one at Clark. My parents used to live at Clark and Division, and there was one at Dearborn and Division, which is, if you're not from Chicago, really prime real estate. Yeah. And it always blew my mind that there's a giant LifeWay storefront there, and it's across the street from Planned Parenthood. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, they're shutting them all down. I mean, part of it is, who's buying books, period? I mean, bookstores are going out of business, and books are a big part of what they sell. Mm-hmm. If you want a Bible, you can get it from other places. If you want Christian shtick, you can get it from other places, too. And they said they're not shutting down the company. They're just moving all their resources online.
Which makes sense.
That does make sense. But I have to think, like, part of it is also there's been a lot of backlash against the company too. They did not succumb to the same like market forces as Barnes and Noble or Borders, because I mean a lot of times when I see them in the news at all, it's because of some crazy decision they made with. Like, for example, they had an author who was describing her in her memoir, describing like a sex ed class, and she used the word vagina in the class.
I remember this. We talked about this.
They did not sell her book in the class.
So brave.
They removed books by authors who supported marriage equality. They removed books by people who claimed to visit heaven because it was found that they lied about it. Like, this is when LifeWay is in the news. And here's the thing. Here's the question I have for you. They're closing down. I mean, it's not something I really necessarily take, like, joy in. They're still there. Whatever. It's a Christian business. I don't care. But here's the question that I've seen people debating online, especially in Christian circles. Is this a good or bad thing for Christians and Christian writers? Because here's where they're coming from. If you are a Christian author, the only way like publishers want to work with you is if when you write your book, they can sell it everywhere possible, right? Like they want to make bang for their buck. But if you're like an author with unorthodox views that don't like hit that conservative evangelical mindset and you don't share those views, then LifeWay wouldn't sell your books. And so maybe they're like, you know what? I'm not going to take a chance giving you a book contract. Let me give it to this pastor who says all the right stuff. And so they would give that guy, you know, the book deal, but not the author who's like stirring some shit within the Christian community. And with LifeWay saying, you know what? We're not doing the bookstores anymore. Maybe it gives them more of a chance to say, you know, we'll sell anything now. We don't have to, you're not going to see it on the shelves. And maybe more publishers say, you know what, we can sell you now because we don't have to worry about you getting pulled from the shelves. Maybe that's a good thing in that sense.
Yeah, but also, don't you think stirring controversy on a book is generally good for sales?
That's a good point, too. Yes, but those controversies can only happen when publishers take that chance on you to write the book.
That's a good point.
If that barricade is moved out of the way, that like, nope, once you write the book, it's on the publishers to sell it and talk about it and market it.
Yeah.
But they don't have to worry about this like retail behemoth standing in their way.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think that's probably overall good for diversity in Christian authors, right? Like,
I would hope so. And again, the only reason I care about that is if you want to get rid of like the poisoning of the Republican Party and the right-wing circles that are infected by these conservative Christians, one of the ways to do that is, sure, you just say all religion is wrong and bad, and that's what a lot of atheists do. But it's probably more impactful when you have other Christians saying, no, you're the people perverting our faith.
Right.
You guys, like, there is a space for LGBTQ rights within Christianity, and here's how we defend that. I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm not saying it's a good argument, but it has more potential to sway Christians when you put it that way.
Yeah, well...
And so those voices, the religious left, the progressive Christians, when you hear more of those voices, that's good for all of us, and then we can get back to, here's why all of you are wrong.
Right.
But we can't do that right now because it's really one strain of Christianity, a very powerful one that does all the bad shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is just an element of sort of removing the singular power force of something like, and who's to say if they're really going to, like, how much they're going to contract their sales by going online? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they are still going to be a powerhouse in the world of Christian literary publishing, but...
There's so many good jokes about the closing, though. Like, this is what happens when you sell only one book. The store will come back in 3 days.
Oh, that's good. Wait. What if... No, I'm gonna punch up your joke. Yeah. This is what happens when you only sell one book that you can get free in any hotel room anyway.
Yes. If only they prayed harder.
Poor guys.
All right.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense in the marketplace, and it makes sense in society.
Yeah. This is happening in Illinois. there is a bill on the horizon that would require public schools to include the roles and contributions of LGBTQ people in history classes.
Yes, I'm very excited about this.
It's fine. Like, all it's saying is, like, hey, you can talk about Alan Turing or whatever, Harvey Milk or Bayard Rustin, like all these people who have contributed to American history. A lot of times they get like downplayed because like, let's not talk about Harvey Milk because he was gay. And so like, it's easier to just say, let's talk about some other stuff. This bill's saying, no, don't exclude them. We got to talk about the contributions they made as well without getting into specifics. It just says, you know, include a study of the roles and contributions of LGBTQ people.
So, as many people who listen to this regularly know, I like to kind of troll Facebook.
Yeah.
It's just sort of one of my hobbies. I live a really fulfilling life. And I follow this page. It's like, let's talk Naperville, or what's happening in Naperville, or something like that. Even though I technically live in Aurora, I'm like right across the street. And
local Facebook pages are the best.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with them. And like the guy who runs this particular page is so nakedly partisan. It's really funny. I mean, he gets called out on it. But anyway, they posted something about this. And of course, in a way of like, with everything that's going on in Illinois, do you think this is what our lawmakers should be focusing on? Which, like, cool argument, too. Like, cool, we're not going to do anything.
There's like 1,000 bills proposed every session.
Exactly. Like,
they're not all the one bill that you need.
Yeah, and we're not going to do anything in this state until we get the budget balance. Like, LOL, our streets are going to fall apart.
Right.
But anyway, so I got into a few pretty good Facebook arguments about this, and a lot of people are like, what if we just report on people and leave their genitalia out of it? I was like, you understand history, sir. Good job. You super get it. And like and then somebody else is like, I don't need my kindergartner learning about sex in history class. I was like,
they're not telling you the positions these people
like,
have in the bedroom.
Harvey Milk, a famous top, did that. Like, that's not what's happening. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
You fucking weird beards.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, it's saying include their names, like talk about what they contributed.
Yeah, I didn't learn about
because traditionally we just ignored some of these people. Let's not do that. That's the gist of the bill. Todd Starnes, the Fox News radio, like they banished him to the paid only. He's not on TV really.
Oh, buddy.
But he's one of these guys who's like, everything Trump says is 100% true, and I will back him up till death, whatever. He had an interview with a Republican state rep in Illinois, Darren Bailey, who is opposed to this bill for exactly the reasons you mentioned. And the funniest thing Todd Starnes said, of the many untrue things he said, I'm confused here why the boys and girls need to learn about people simply because of, you know, who they go to bed with. Blah, blah, blah. Where are the heterosexual history classes? I mean, if you're going to go down that path. To which Bailey said, yeah, thank you. Where are the hetero history classes, Jess? Because clearly what this bill says is U.S. history is now only gay people, and we only talk about sex positions. Really, the only textbook is the Kama Sutra.
That might be
and the gay version of it.
That might be a worse take than when do we have
White History Month.
That might be a worse take.
He said it completely sincerely. Where are the hetero history classes?
Oh my God, I need to find, along those lines, there was some...
the whole point of this bill is every history class is a heterosexual history class. That's what they're trying to fix. Let's not ignore people who shaped this country.
God, I'm probably not going to be able to find it, but there was just a town hall with a Democratic candidate. And I didn't know his name off the top of my head. Like, he wasn't one of the, like, cluster that I've been following, and somebody asked him, like, would you consider having a female VP? Did you see this?
Yeah, and I'm trying to struggle for the name too.
It's another one of those like hard to spell names. But he was like, how come nobody's asking women if they're going to have a male VP candidate? And the like this woman who was interviewing him was like, well, if we get to that place,
right.
Cool.
Wasn't someone asked like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, how many women should there be on the Supreme Court?
When there are 9.
Right.
Fuck yes, RBG. I might get that tattoo.
Nice. Todd Starnes also added, he also complained about this bill because he's like, quote, at some point, you're going to have to explain to the 4 and 5-year-olds what a lesbian is, what a bisexual is, what a transgender person is. First of all, hey, 4-year-old, here's what a gay person is. It's a guy who likes a guy. There, we're done with that conversation. I don't even think you have to discuss what a trans person is because the kids don't even know their own anatomy. It doesn't. That's beyond the scope of the issue.
And I would argue you should teach kids that really early because then you don't run into 45-year-olds being like, well, if I feel like a woman one day, what's to stop me from going in the women's locker room?
If Mike Huckabee actually learned about this
I was doing a Mike Huckabee voice. How did you know?
I know your impressions. Yeah. The bill is fine. Like, there's no reason.
What are we talking about? I'll take your history. Yeah, no, that's great. It's important to learn about who contributed to our modern world aside from white dudes, because white dudes wrote the history books, and guess who white dudes like to talk about? Spoiler alert, it's other white dudes.
I have to say, like, this is one of the weird things. Both of us, we live in Illinois, where now it's a Democratic-controlled everything, and it's such a... And again, there's plenty of shitty, crazy things about Illinois politics too, but it's kind of nice to kind of see, oh, look, here's a bill that makes sense. Oh, it'll probably pass because there are sensible people in charge.
Yeah.
And like the crazy Bailey type people who are like, what? We have to teach sex positions.
Yeah.
Like, you don't matter right now.
Right.
It doesn't matter that you're insane as opposed to the federal government where those are the people that have all the power.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, dear God, constant barrage of crazy. But at least we live right now on an island where it's not all crazy
oasis
that wins all the time.
Yeah. Oh. That's wild. Do you want to talk about Chick-fil-A?
Let's.
So this really harkens back to my early days as a contributor to the Friendly Atheist brand of products because when I started...
It's called the Friendly Atheist Cinematic Universe.
The FACU.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
Something like that. I gotcha. Thank you.
Stupid joke. It didn't even make sense. So when I first started writing for the blog in 2012, one of the first two big quote unquote stories happened that I wrote all about. One was a pastor who said that she wouldn't tip because she said, I only give Jesus 10%. Why should I give you more or something? And that was like a 3-week long story.
God.
And then the Chick-fil-A thing where it came out that the CEO, whose name is Dan Cathy, Kathy,
I believe.
He turns out he was like a massive homophobe, which should not be altogether surprising because Chick-fil-A is a famously very conservative Christian company. They don't open on Sundays, whatever. So there was like this whole thing. So
and again, if you weren't around in 2012 or now following all this stuff, the issue was that their corporate wing, like their foundation, was giving money specifically to groups, I forgot which specific ones, but they were ones that are like Liberty Counsel or the American Family Association, where anti-LGBTQ issues are kind of a thing they do. And so whenever you buy waffle fries, some of that money is going back to hurting LGBTQ people.
Right.
And Dan Cathy himself was saying
very
these things
much so. He
and
said,
promoting those things.
America. So this is when the sort of discussion about gay marriage was in full swing, and we weren't sure. It was going state by state, like dominoes were kind of falling. Dan Cathy said that America is, quote, inviting God's judgment on our nation when we shake our fist at him and say, we know better than you as to what constitutes a marriage. And then when pressed about the company's anti-gay positions, he said, well, guilty as charged. Like all non-guilty people.
There were some mayors at the time who were like, there will never be a Chick-fil-A in my city.
Yeah, a couple aldermen in Chicago were like, we don't need a Chick-fil-A here.
Yeah, now they're here.
Yeah, right.
But one of the things that happened after this whole kerfuffle, and it became like a protest center for a lot. Like if a brand new Chick-fil-A is opening, it's not just the diehards who want the food standing in line.
Right.
It's the protesters too.
It was a real It was a real lightning rod.
It was at a time when you had like not a barrage of crazy every
Right.
day. This was an easy culture wars issue.
Exactly.
What happened since then is Chick-fil-A said, look, as a company, we are not going to give money to those anti-gay organizations anymore. So back the hell off of us.
Yeah.
Because again, what Dan Cathy does in his private time, whatever, that's probably not as big of a deal because, like, I don't know who owns Arby's. I'm sure that guy's
Right.
a jerk too. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe he does things I don't like.
Yeah.
But if we go down that line, I mean, every company is probably going to have someone in the chain that owns the thing, that does things you don't like.
Right.
So forget that for a second. What's the company doing? And the company said, we're not giving money to those anymore.
Right.
But this week, the website Think Progress said, we looked through their corporate statements, and in 2017, which is the last year of material that is available, they gave $1.8 million to other Christian groups. So Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Salvation Army, I think
The
one or two
Paul
others.
Anderson Youth Home is the third one.
Okay. And like, for example, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, yes, it's a Christian group. Obviously, it's in the name. They're not known for being anti-gay. They're known for saying, let's help Christian athletes like pray at their things and we'll support them and whatever it is they do. But if you work for them, you can't be in a same-sex relationship. They do promote, in a sense, this idea that if you're gay, you better be abstinent for life.
Yeah, they spread anti-LGBTQ message to college athletes and require a strict sexual purity policy for its employees that bars any homosexual acts.
Right. So again, if you're giving money to FCA, you're not directly saying this is about making sure we stop gay people from having the rights, but it is
you're
part of what they
supporting-
do.
You are saying that I am fine with a organization enforcing these sorts of
Right.
sort of puritanical laws.
And Salvation Army has gotten somewhat better on this, I think, but they have a history of saying we're also not going to hire you if you're in a same-sex relationship. Again, they've weakened that sort of restriction. So again, it's Chick-fil-A, are they still giving money to anti-gay groups? Depends how much you want to define that. They're giving money to conservative Christian groups that don't really make it a big part of their mission
Right.
to be anti-gay, but it is there.
Yeah.
And so this week in San Antonio, the San Antonio City Council was voting on what restaurants should be in their city's airports because they have to make a deal about this.
Oh, sure.
And the company that says we manage a whole bunch of restaurants, we want to manage all of these restaurants in your airport. Here are the 10 we want to give you, and they're all different types. And Chick-fil-A was in the mix. And one of the city councilors in San Antonio said, I don't want to do this deal.
Nice.
But unless you take out Chick-fil-A because we
Nice.
don't like what they stand for. And the overseeing company said, yeah, it's fine. We'll take Chick-fil-A out of the mix.
No, I hear that. I
we'll
get you.
put a different one. We don't know which one yet, but like we'll put a different one there.
Yeah.
And San Antonio voted 6-4 in favor of those restaurants going in the airport. So the story that I've seen today is, oh my God, San Antonio like banned Chick-fil-A from the airport. Not exactly, but kind of. But
banning is a big word for
Yeah.
what it was.
But again,
they negotiated it out.
it's not directly connected to the Think Progress report, but it's a reminder that, hey, Chick-fil-A still kind of has a history with these anti-gay Christian groups.
yeah.
And again, for San Antonio, the city councilor, it's like, this is kind of a business decision too, saying, no, when you're in our city, you are welcome here. We are tolerant. We are inclusive. We welcome you. And we're not just going to let Chick-fil-A in because we know the message that sends and we
Right.
don't like it.
Right.
And again, for the overseeing company, they're like, we just want to make money. Give us the deal.
Exactly.
If you want no Chick-fil-A, we'll put something, fine, whatever. And of course, that is Christian persecution if you're on the
Yeah,
right.
I mean, sounds like it to me. There's only a Chick-fil-A at State and Lake, one of the busiest intersections in Chicago. I remember the day I was like getting off the train and I saw the storefront go in and I was like, how the fuck did this escape me? When did this happen? It's like we're right next door to the Chicago Theater.
I
Anyway,
was having this debate with someone this week where it's like, is Chick-fil-A still anti-gay? And it's like, I don't even know if I would call it anti-gay. I know I'm vegetarian, but like I don't want to really give them money
I
anyway.
choose not to spend money there. That's
But
sort of my
also,
thing.
they're not as anti-gay as they used to be, but they kind of are. Like, I don't know where to put that on the... If I have a
Yeah.
choice, I'm not eating there.
What would you eat there? Fries?
Yeah.
Do they have anything?
I have no idea. Never been there.
Yeah,
I think I got a milkshake once.
When I was working in the West Loop, I got off the train at Lake and they were handing out chicken sandwich, like breakfast chicken sandwiches. I'll tell you what, it was very good. I did eat that free sandwich they gave me. And then you know what? Never patronize them again. So that 65 cents is in Jessica's pocket.
Well done.
And your fucking
And it went
face.
to Planned Parenthood, I'm sure.
Probably. A lot of my money does.
Side note.
Yes.
When Chick-fil-A is in an airport, I don't have this in front of me. This is all in my head right now. When Chick-fil-A is in an airport, I mean, they're closed Sundays in the airport too. But in most of the places, I think in Minneapolis is where this story like originated. They do have a Chick-fil-A in the airport there. That store makes more money in 6 days than most of the other stores make in 7. So usually the airports are like,
Really?
yeah, they're like, we're fine with you being here because you still give us the same money you owe the airport for hosting you,
Right.
like the rent you pay or whatever commission we get, whatever the deal is. So the fact that the San Antonio people will not have a Chick-fil-A means they may be missing out on some money.
Leave money on the table.
Because whatever you replace it with may not have the same reception. But they're doing it because there's a bigger issue in play here.
Didn't they put a Chick-fil-A in like a fucking football stadium or something, which makes no sense because football's played
Atlanta,
on...
maybe?
I
Yeah.
think it's Atlanta. That sounds right.
So on game days.
What is going on, you guys?
Yeah. But they make money on the other days when people are playing other sports. I don't know what they play.
No, I mean, I guess there's probably... I'm sure there's like
Concerts?
concerts and
Yeah.
stuff, but like... That just seems like a really questionable business venture for all parties involved.
I mean, again, if that's the only thing they did because they were Christian, like, no, on principle, we
Sure.
don't open on Sunday, it'd be like, wow, that's a very impressive
It's a nice
thing of
principle
you.
that you have. Give your
Yeah.
employees the day off.
And you're
Cool.
losing money, but you stand for it. So good for you. But they don't. They do more than that, and it's not good stuff. Okay. Let's talk about Kentucky because we have to. Because the governor there, Matt Bevin, is this guy who's been around for years now. He's anti-science. He's pro-gun. He's everything you would expect from a conservative Republican. But he said on a radio show this week that he has 9 kids. I think 4 or 5 of them are adopted. He said, I have 9 kids. We didn't vaccinate them, at least for chickenpox. He said, nope, we just exposed them to chickenpox so they would get it. And then they got better. And look, we did that instead of getting them vaccinated. Ha, 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 ha.
So they have the shingles virus. And
Well,
then when they
this is
come
the
out
thing. He
later.
said this like, we don't need to get vaccinated because like I
fucking
just
checkmate
exposed.
pro-vaxxers.
Right. And it's every health expert is like, what are you doing? Don't, even if you did it, it's stupid. Don't say that because, yeah, look, when I was a kid, I know you're like way younger than me.
Not that much younger than you.
When I was a kid, we didn't have the vaccine. The vaccine came out in 95. And so I got chickenpox when I was like 6 or 7. And I remember whatever I do remember of that. It's like, oh, that was unpleasant. I remember my mom giving me a bath with like the lotion,
Sure.
whatever it was. And then I got better and I haven't had any problems with that. But not all kids come out that way. Some of them could have long-term consequences. And even if you get over the chickenpox, like you mentioned, you might get shingles down the road. You might have health issues down the road.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Everything you said is correct. Like, for most kids, chickenpox probably isn't a big deal. I got them when I was 1. I also didn't get the vaccine. I'm like 2 years younger than you. Fucking chill. Couldn't go to Disney World or Disneyland. I'm not sure. I was 1. But all of that aside, it is just fucking buck wild to me that people's position is, I don't want to give my kid a shot because this illness will only make them horribly uncomfortable for like a week. And that's fine with me. Like,
right,
I would
fine with
rather
my kid suffering for a week.
I'd rather. Yeah, and like menial suffering though it may be, most kids are like, it's just uncomfortable. I've seen that episode of Friends when they have to tape the oven mitts on their hands. Some people know what that means. You don't.
No.
And it's just wild to me that you wouldn't say like, oh, cool, my kid can skip a really unpleasant childhood illness even if it's not like deadly. Oh, that sounds like a good thing I would like to grant my child.
He put his kids in harm's way. Why? Apparently to like own the libs or something. And they did have these chickenpox parties. Like that was a thing I remember hearing about.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like,
for
this is what
sure.
Bevin said. He said a neighbor had chickenpox and I went and made sure every one of my kids was exposed to it and they got it. They had it as children. They were miserable for a few days and they all turned out fine. Yeah.
Can you imagine however he probably has like
God,
17 children, like all having chickenpox at the same time?
All at the same time. And again, health experts have said, like, I had a patient who's a pregnant woman who became exposed to chickenpox. She became ill. She developed pneumonia. Either she or her baby or both did not survive. That is what happens if you aren't vaccinated. And Bevin is acting like, nope, totally fine, worth the risk.
No, that's the other thing. It's similar to like the flu shot of like, oh, chickenpox aren't that bad. Oh, flu isn't that bad. Like, no, and you'll probably, statistically, you or I, if we got the flu, would probably be fine, but my 97-year-old grandmother probably wouldn't be super great.
Yeah.
And if somebody's pregnant, they're probably not going to be super great. And guess what? Like, the flu fucking kills people every year.
Right.
Like, a lot of
and
people.
Your kid's not getting vaccinated is ruining the herd immunity you need from vaccines, so the virus can't travel. But
just this weird instinct to downplay being sick as if like
he's so pro-life he risked 9 of his children's lives.
It just really, it kind of feels like the furthest step of, you know, when older people about younger generations like, oh, when I was your age, my parents hit me with a strap, and so you kids are it's all that like.
And I turned out okay. No, you didn't. You think it's okay to get hit by a strap,
right? But it's also like a thing where you're like, I went through this. You should too. Like, so for me, I'm like, well, I went through a lot of
tough
things.
Love thing.
Yeah, I went through a lot of things when I was young that I would not wish my own children to go through. But other people are like, I got bullied. Fuck you. You're gonna get bullied in your face. 8-year-old. And this feels like the logical conclusion of this of like, I fucking got chickenpox, you 6-year-old. You get chickenpox, you asshole. You're not going to skate through life without the physical and emotional scars.
I want to see that on a governor's proclamation somewhere.
Fuck you.
And by the way, this is all happening as the hepatitis A virus has killed 44 people in the state.
And measles is coming back. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Why is this? How is
this is what happens when you elect an anti-science person as your leader.
But it's not even science. It's just fucking plain logic. Like, is somebody standing on the other side of an argument where you say, if you give a kid a shot, they're not going to get these 18 diseases? Doesn't that sound nice for you and your children? Like, no, fuck you. Fuck you telling me what to put in my kid. I want my kid to get measles, mumps, and rubella all at the same time.
Yes. A commenter
Are you impressed
mentioned...
I know what MMR stands for?
Nicely done. A commenter mentioned this, which is that Bevin also said the decision shouldn't be up to the government. Like, it should be up to the parents. He's like, this is America. The government shouldn't be forcing this upon people. They shouldn't.
Dick, Bevins.
Do you know what his position is on abortions?
Oh, my God.
No, I get to make the final decision about what happens to your body. But the shots, no. The shots is between a parent and a child.
It's just so wild because chickenpox feels low stakes, but it's just so indicative of everything that's happening. I have two of my own chickenpox stories that I'm bringing to this week.
What else
That means we have a total of 3 chickenpox stories because people...
We should have 0 chickenpox stories.
I don't want to talk about chickenpox. This is not what I got into the lucrative podcasting game for. I got in this game to yell about baby boomers. Everyone knows that's my passion. So there's a politician in Italy's far right. His name is... Massimiliano Frederiga.
Nice.
My Italian grandparents are really proud of me. He's diagnosed with chickenpox. He was hospitalized because guess what? When adults get the fucking chickenpox, it can be a big deal. Mm-hmm. Fun fact about Frederiga, he opposed legislation that prevents kids from attending daycare or preschool if they're not vaccinated against 12 childhood diseases.
Yeah.
And that also includes a fine on parents who don't vaccinate their kids.
Yeah.
He's
said against the mandatory vaccines, and then, nah.
So this is maybe my favorite part. He said that the laws amount to parents being coerced and called proponents of the law, are you ready for this? Stalinist.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Really good reading of history. You really understood what happened in World War II.
Stalinists made everyone's health care better by giving them the good shots.
And here's Frederiga attempt to clarify he's not against vaccination and slammed the quote celebratory comments on Twitter in regard to his hospital stay. So
there's no shot against Schadenfreude.
No, he said he's in favor of vaccines, but he just doesn't think requirements are the way to go.
That's
which is
Jenny McCarthy's position.
No, that's the really frustrating thing is like, This is an argument I see all the time.
If you're against mandatory vaccines on a set schedule that experts have already figured out, and you're like, no, I just want the shot spread out over the year.
Then you're against vaccines.
Then you're against vaccines because they work when they're there early and they're there from birth. And
another one back in our old Kentucky home, the Bluegrass State. There is a gentleman named Jerome Kunkel. He is a senior at Our Lady of the Sacred Heart / Assumption Academy in Walton, Kentucky. Haven't heard a lot of Catholic churches with slashes in their name, huh? Anyway, he won't get the chickenpox vaccine.
Okay.
Guess what's going on in his school?
Outbreak.
A chickenpox outbreak. There's 32 people who have been affected. And so the local health department barred students who aren't immunized against chickenpox from attending school and canceled extracurricular activities during an outbreak. So guess what Jerome Kunkel is doing, this brave, brave soldier?
What's this brave
Onward,
soldier
Christian
doing?
soldier. He is suing the local health department.
Hey.
How dare you try to keep me from getting sick, you motherfuckers? Quote, the fact that I can't finish my senior year of basketball, like our last couple of games, is pretty devastating. I mean, you go through 4 years of high school playing basketball, but you look forward to your senior year, he said.
So it's his job to make sure everyone suffers through his presence.
So his dad, Bill Kunkel, said that he doesn't believe in the chickenpox vaccine and that they're trying to push it on us. They object to this vaccine because they believed what? Why did these good Christian people object to the chickenpox vaccine?
Because it uses fetal cells.
That's it!
Yeah.
Because it's derived from aborted fetuses. Quote, and of course,
again,
as we're Christians, we're against abortion.
They're so pro-life that they want to put all these people at risk of dying.
Yerp. And CNN did like a really nice, like just that quote. And then the chickenpox vaccine is not derived from aborted fetuses. There's a number of vaccines made and descendant cells of aborted fetuses dating back several decades. Right. So anyway, everybody's just being really cool and fucking chill as usual.
So there's a good segue for this. So there's a Christian group called 1 Million Moms, which is, I can't tell if it's stupid marketing or brilliant marketing because they have 3,600 Twitter followers. And I've only ever heard one name associated with the group. It's like Bill Donahue in the Catholic League. It's like, I'm pretty sure the league is just you.
It's just you.
And I'm pretty sure the 1 million is you rounding up from one. But so they put out these releases every couple of days, like, how dare these people insult my family like this? And it's not even the latest because another one came out today.
Oh, really?
This week, they went after Kit Kat, the candy bar, because a commercial that's been out for months, it's a 30-second commercial.
Is it? Oh, it's old?
Yeah. The commercial, it's just them, instead of the usual break me off a piece jingle, they just have the Kit Kat like up close and you breaking it in half so you could see the inside. But playing in the background is Missy Elliott's Work It.
Could you break me off a piece of that?
There's a line in the song. First of all, they only play 3 lines from the song, and I know the song well because that's what I listen to all the time. And I played it for my kid when she was 2 months old, and now she dances to it.
Wait, is that a true story?
That is a true story.
That's excellent.
Alexa, play Work It. Oh, it's fun.
I prefer Lose Control. Oh, you activated my Alexa.
There
Alexa,
I go.
Turn off.
So,
Alexa, shut up.
So the song, the commercial only plays like 2 lines, which are gibberish, more or less.
Well, it's not gibberish. It's the previous line played backwards.
Thank you.
Hemant, read a fucking book.
Right. And then they have one line that says, if you got a big elephant noise, let me search it. And this is what 1 Million Moms / one woman said. The inappropriate song playing in this commercial is called Work It, blah, 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 has no place in a candy bar commercial. The song is about sex, and the lyrics are extremely offensive.
Okay.
The song includes a word for male genitalia that is bleeped out by an elephant trumpet. Everyone knows children repeat what they hear. So if your kid says, like, that is what she's offended by. Because no one is watching this commercial coming back and saying, Mommy, let me tell you what I saw on the TV
coming into this, I was hoping you would do the elephant noise, and
I deliver what the people want.
Really, it it was better than I could have imagined it. Like, Jesus Christ, ladies, find something real to get upset. I know people say this about liberals all the time, like, oh,
talk about snowflakes.
yeah, like there's actual real shit going. There's children in cages. Are we that mad about
They
a Kit
set up
Kat
a
commercial?
petition so people would complain to Kit Kat about the elephant noise. Because, like, we know what
we
you're
know.
really doing. Like,
Which
I
is
would
wild.
not have even,
It's not.
I swear. Again, I know the song.
Yep.
And I've seen the commercial. And I never once put two and two together that, like, oh, it's that line. Because it's just like, oh, it's Missy Elliott. I don't know why they're playing her to a Kit Kat commercial. But all right, it's a catchy song. And, oh, that's the lyric you're using. I didn't even know that was the lyric they were using, like, closely until I saw these people complaining about it. Because this was the takeaway for everybody.
Yeah, I saw it
God.
only in context of knowing that they were complaining, and I didn't read anything. I just saw that they were like mad about Kit Kat, and I watched the little like 30-second clip, and when it did the elephant noise, and it like snaps the Kit Kat at the same time, and I cackled so loud and so hard I fell off my chair. It was just so good.
Here's the reason I say this isn't even the latest one. Today, they came out with another, again, petition because there's a TBS comedy called Miracle Workers that's Steve Buscemi playing God, who's just like, I'm done with this shit. And Daniel Radcliffe playing an angel who has to pick up the slack on the prayers. It's kind of like an office comedy.
Oh, that sounds funny.
That's exactly the reaction. It's like, all right, I see
like
what you're
those two
doing.
people.
Let's see where this
And
goes.
Daniel Radcliffe is a pretty famous atheist.
Yeah. So whatever, let's see what happens. They were like, this show mocks Christianity and sends the wrong message about like what the Bible said. If you're watching this show to get an accurate depiction of what the Bible says, you turn on the wrong channel.
Yeah.
And also it says it's satire. Like they say, yeah, we're using this premise. Like, guess what? God's not friending you on Facebook either. That's not what these shows are supposed to do. And they're just like, how dare they wouldn't do this to Islam.
Right.
No one knows the Islamic stories. They know the Christian ones. That's why it's funny, because it's a myth we all know. Oh, my God.
Yeah, they did
That's
that.
what they were complaining about today. But you know what they said? They didn't say, let's petition TBS. They said, let's go after Subaru, because Subaru advertises on that show. So, hey, Subaru, this show is being funny. How dare you advertise on
Yeah,
there?
also, Subaru definitely isn't pandering to a traditionally lesbian market. So,
right. As if that company has not had
like,
enough shit from
Subaru
people.
had an entire storyline in the first season of The L Word. Like, I think they're fine with this.
Yeah, they'll handle a half-hour basic cable comedy.
Oh my God. That's incredible. I have one more upsetting story and then a really excellent story.
Yes.
So I just wanted to talk about this one more time because the anti-abortion heartbeat bill cleared the Georgia Senate panel. So guess what that means? Jessica's going to talk more about early pregnancy. Hi, everybody. It's your friend Jessica. I've never been pregnant, but here we go. I have a uterus. So
this is going to pass in Georgia, more or less.
It's more or less a foregone conclusion. So essentially, when we say 6 weeks from... when we say 6 weeks... it means 6 weeks from your last period, which means your period is maybe 2 weeks late, if that. If you have an irregular period, you probably have even less than that. And so that means if you got pregnant, you might not know it until it is already too late for you to get a legal abortion in Georgia. It is like... if you're going to do this, Georgia, I'm talking to you as a state. If you're going to do this, like, call it what it fucking is. Ban abortion outright. Because couching it...
don't hide behind this language.
Yeah, couching it in this language, which most people... and I'm the first to admit, this is like the last year or two that I learned that being 6 weeks pregnant means you're probably have only been pregnant for like a couple weeks, maybe. I just learned that because it is the most counterintuitive way to judge anything. So... when people see this 6 week abortion bill, you think, okay, you find out you're pregnant. 6 weeks feels like a lot. It's not. And most places you can't go in, find out you're pregnant, and get an abortion immediately. Not just because there are laws in many places that mean you have to have a 24-hour waiting period. Not just because you have to travel far, but just you have to get an appointment. And sometimes appointments book up. I had to get an ultrasound this week. I had to book it out a week. What would I have done? What would I have done, Hemant?
What would you have done?
I don't know. I'm just mad. Also, I had to get an ultrasound, and it reminded me of all the transvaginal ultrasound things from a couple of years ago, and that made me mad because, like, I wasn't suffering from, like, trauma of any kind, and guess what? Transvaginal ultrasounds fucking blow.
I'll take your word for it.
My left ovary is very far left, just like my politics.
I'm not humoring you with that one.
That was a joke Mikey made, actually. But I can't. It was one of those things that, like, I'm laying there and making small talk with this woman, and I was like, what the fuck is it with being a woman right now? Like, what is going on in the world? Anyway, my IUD is fine. Thank you for asking.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Do I share too much on this?
No. There's a physicist.
Like, listen, if people are going to start legislating about my body, you guys are going to hear some weird shit about my body. That is the deal I'm going to make with listeners now. If they keep trying to get more and more intrusive of what they can legislate in my body, you're going to hear all kinds of weird shit. I'm going to start.
So if you want Jessica to shut up, you better oppose these bills.
Yes, I'm going to talk about cramps and mood swings and period poops. That's a real thing.
Let's talk about physics. There's Dr. Marcello Gleiser, a professor of physics and astronomy at Dartmouth, just got $1.4 million for the Templeton Prize. And what did he have to do to get that money? It wasn't for a discovery he made or any research he's produced. He won it because he basically says science and religion might be compatible. And the Templeton people are like, you said the magic words.
Oh,
here's a giant check for you.
$1.8 million?
$1.4 million dollars to do that.
And it's like the Templeton Foundation. Like, who's paying into that?
Bob Templeton, Charles Templeton. It's been around for a long time, and they give massive amounts of money to one person a year who they say has done the most to suggest science and religion are not these mutually exclusive
things. And is it an annual prize, or is it just like once in a while they're like, oh, I found someone?
Every year.
$1.4 million every year?
Yep. Now, they also fund other stuff. That's not the only money they have. They have a lot of money. And there are a lot of researchers who do work that maybe falls in line with that mission that's like, let's talk about how many religious scientists there are. And that we're doing a survey on that. And they're like, we'll fund that. And here's the thing. Gleiser, as far as, like, he's not religious, but what he does say is, like, science is one way for us to understand the world. Religion is another way. Like, what has he discovered that suggests the two are compatible? Nothing.
Yeah.
He just gives it lip service to say, yeah, these two might be okay. Here's what he said. My mission is to bring back to science and to the people that are interested in science this attachment to the mysterious, to make people understand that science is just one other way for us to engage with the mystery of who we are. Which sounds all well and good until you realize, yeah, but when it comes to figuring out how shit works, science is the only way. Religion has never won that battle.
Right.
It answers a different set of questions that no one's asking, or at least not in the scientific realm. Like, they're different things.
Yeah, this is dumb, Hemant. That's my take.
Here's what's infuriating, though. Like, they give this money because they want the media splash, because you see these articles that's like, this big-time physicist says the two are compatible, or that you don't need to be an atheist. Like, there's no conclusion he has reached that we would not have known otherwise.
Right.
But thanks to him, we now, like, this is why a lot of atheists, a lot of scientists are like, they scoff at the Templeton Prize, because it's like, yeah, if you want to sell your soul and be like, yeah, I'll believe in whatever you want me to believe, there's money in it for you. If Richard Dawkins is like, yeah, I could get $1 million by doing this.
Oh, yeah,
like, if
for
I
sure.
just said there's an opening. And again, they're always saying, like, but I have the ethics not to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Different issue. But the point is, like, there's no scientific proof of any of this stuff, but they pay it lip service. And these people love giving it to people who pay that idea lip service. It's not because they discovered something that science can't explain. You know what I mean? It's not like there's any research paper they're giving you this money for. Dawkins said of this prize in the past, it's given usually to a scientist who's prepared to say something nice about religion, which I think is, that's
Sounds
the
right.
accurate way of putting it. Let's talk about this serious story, and of course we're saving it for like an hour into this. But Neil deGrasse Tyson was under this investigation for alleged sexual harassment and alleged rape that happened decades ago. Fox, which shows Cosmos, and National Geographic, which runs his show Star Talk, they said, we're going to investigate this. And so did the Hayden Planetarium, where he officially works. And Fox and National Geographic basically, they issued a statement this week that just said, we finished our investigation. We finished the investigation, and the shows are going to come back on the air because they had delayed the premieres and they postponed Star Talk. They said, we're going to bring the shows back soon. And then they're like, there will be no further comment. And that's all they said. They did not say, we uncovered that whatever, these women were lying or that they found more evidence. They didn't say anything about the investigation. They just said, we're done with it. The shows are coming back. He's going to be back on TV. And that's it. We're not talking about it anymore. Neil deGrasse Tyson hasn't commented on it because why would he want to draw attention to it? But in terms of what did they uncover? Because what we had were a couple of three different women speaking up about different things. One said, he raped her in college. He said, we did have sex. We were in a relationship. It didn't end well, but not that he was saying that happened.
Yeah, 'cause she accused him of drugging her and raping him.
And he said, no, we were in a relationship. It didn't work out. We broke up. That was it. It was consensual all times. Another woman said, I worked for him. He hit on me, which he said, I think he said that happened, but that was not where I was going with it. I don't know. The point is, and someone else said he touched her body, when he was looking at a tattoo. He said, I might have touched her to the shoulder to see the tattoo in full. That was clearly I overstepped the line. I shouldn't have done that. I won't do that. Okay.
Right.
But here's the thing. Looking at all of this, it's what? It's a weird situation for me as a fan of his. And also, I want to take these women at their word, but I don't know what to do about that. And this investigation, if they said, we talked to people, like the woman who said this thing happened in college, we talked to people she knew. And they all said, yeah, she told us this many times. And so we can corroborate what happened then. Or that same thing with these other people. Or maybe they said, yeah, it was pretty bad, and we decided this. They didn't give any information. And so this is where I'm stuck, because it's I think I'm glad that they cleared it up and he's going back on TV. But also, I don't have any new information.
There's no closure on it.
There's no closure on it. And maybe the biggest issue is that Fox and National Geographic have a skin in this game because they already taped Cosmos.
It's very similar to a Catholic church doing an internal.
Yeah, we did our own investigation and everything's fine. It's if you said no, it's not fine, you stand to lose a lot of money. So again, you're not saying that the investigation was marred in any way, but also you have a stake in the outcome.
Right. This was not objective.
Right.
This was you trying to clear a person.
And so for you to just say, nope, we did it, we're done. What do you want to do with that? The women who have spoken to reporters about this said, they did talk to me, but I'm not satisfied with whatever. They didn't talk to everybody.
Right.
They're not satisfied with the conclusion. But again, what do you do with this information? Because like he's gonna come back on TV. He'll start making public appearances again.
Yeah, I mean he's still active on Twitter. Like it's all.
This is not one of those situations where you have multiple people accusing him of the same thing or anything like that. This is just like, well, this horrible story happened a couple of decades ago. He clearly maybe crossed a line with one person recently, and the other one maybe I've seen people say the tattoo thing, really not a big deal. That's by eye of the beholder. She wasn't okay with it. So listen to that. But like, again, what do you do when he comes back on the air? Like, here's what I can't answer for you. He's going to post some awesome video at some point, I'm sure, or a clip from his show. Do I show it? Do I say anything about it? Does this investigation and the allegation, does that come up every time you mention his name? Because I've seen like articles about Aziz Ansari coming back and doing stand-up comedy. And of course, every time they mention he's doing comedy, they got to mention the allegations against him. And it gets weird because it's how much of this has to follow Neil deGrasse Tyson forever. And at what point do you say, okay, it's done? By the way, the Hayden Planetarium, which pays him, he's the director, they said their investigation is still ongoing. They have not issued anything because they're still working on it. But, like, this is where I'm stuck because I don't have a good answer for what to do with this because I don't want to publicize or amplify whatever it is. Not that he needs me, but, like, you don't want to amplify what he's doing if I think he's done something like that.
You don't want to attach your name to what he's doing or, like, co-sign it in any way. We had a very long conversation about this a few months ago. And I have not moved. I haven't figured anything else out. Yeah. I genuinely don't know. And, like, I don't want to dig back into it because this doesn't need to be a 4-hour podcast. Right.
I was hoping I would learn something that would help me move in one direction or another. And I learned him
completely or gives us something concrete to be like, yeah, he did this. I don't know. This was this sent me on a real soul searching journey, and I came up like, I don't know, like it's I'm disappointed in myself with the way I have the fact that I have not been like, no, somebody accused him of rape and I believe women and therefore fuck him and fuck his contributions. I haven't done that yet, and I don't feel good that I haven't done that yet.
Right.
And so, I don't know.
I would also keep in mind that this is something that some of the reports said. If you're Fox and National Geographic, you're not in the business of getting into did he ever cross the line or anything.
Right.
This isn't the Brett Kavanaugh investigation,
right,
where we're looking into his character.
Right.
What those companies are doing right now is saying, is there anything he did that could put us in a bad situation? Let's say the allegations were true from decades ago. If the statute of limitations has expired, they could very well just say, it happened a long time ago. We don't care what the answer is. It doesn't affect us.
Right.
So we don't care. The thing that was inappropriate, did he do anything that was illegal? If the answer is no, and by all accounts, like he didn't do anything illegal, inappropriate perhaps, not illegal, then Fox and National Geographic might say, he didn't put us in any trouble. So as far as we're concerned, it's not an issue for us, so we don't care if he's back on TV. We're fine with him being back on.
Right.
Because ethical issues, character issues, that's not what we're investigating.
Right.
So, like, again, keep in mind that, because I heard comments, not just on my site, but other places, where they're like, well, I'm glad he's cleared. I'm glad everything's fine. It's like, that's not the conclusion is. That's a very Trumpian, like, well, they didn't find collusion, so I guess I'm perfectly good.
Right, because the world isn't black and white. The world operates in shades of gray. And, like, is he going to get brought up on criminal charges?
No.
We know that.
Suppose an atheist/science conference has him as a keynote speaker. What do you do with that?
I genuinely don't know. And I will say, while all of this was going down, the organization I work for was courting him to be our keynote speaker for a thing, and like I'm not part of that, so I just heard his name floating around, and then we solidified our speaker list and he wasn't part of it. And I was dealing with that because at first it was like, oh fuck yeah, I'm gonna get to meet him and that's fucking awesome, and then the shit came out and I still don't know. I genuinely still do not know. I feel the same way about like fucking Richard Dawkins, of like, he brought so much to this community and he is such an important figure. There are things that he has said and done that I'm not like fucking crazy about.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. And like, fucking come at me on Twitter again if you want. Like, a dude really fucking railed on me in pretty bad faith last time around. And it's just, I'm trying to figure out, I believe in myself that I believe women, but sometimes when the rubber hits the road, how does that apply to my life?
Right.
Like, how does that apply? And maybe I am a bad ally and a bad feminist, but like, I'm fucking doing my best to sort of figure out what's going on in this.
Let's move on.
Yeah, I've got one more story.
Go for it.
So this was a thing. So we recorded a little bit early last week, and literally that afternoon, Irish Prime Minister Leo I should have figured out how to pronounce this. Varadkar, and his partner Matt Barrett got to hang out with Mike Pence. Now, he and his partner got out of the car, met Mike Pence in front of the VP like staging area, I guess. Guess who was conspicuously absent? Mother Pence.
Yes.
So
he brought his wife.
He brought his sister instead of his wife.
Right.
So if you guys don't know, where have you been? But Mike Pence is very anti-gay and pro-conversion therapy. He's a monster. And he looks like a Lego character. And so for him to so it was like this very like in front of the press, you can hear the cameras clicking. So the prime minister and his partner get out, shake hands, and then like the prime minister kind of like sidebars with the sister, who seems very lovely. Like she seemed very gracious and nice. I don't know anything about her politics. She could be a monster too, but she seemed chill from the little I saw. And so he leaves his partner, Matt Barrett, talking to Pence. And I just watched like the whole clip of them interacting. And for like 45 seconds, Mike Pence, like you kind of look at everybody's body language of like, you know, one of them has their hands in their pockets and the sister has her hands clasped and like looked casual. And Mike Pence looked like a figurine. Like his arms were like kind of by his side and this horribly unnatural
body language
way
very much.
of like,
I don't want to be here.
And then, so that was pretty fun for me to watch. It was fine. Eventually he didn't seem like a monster or whatever. Like it wasn't as bad as I hoped it could be because I would like to see that kind of shit roll down. But,
that is cool that a world leader is like, here's my gay partner.
Right.
And you're going to have to deal with that because I'm going to make a speech about how awesome LGBTQ rights are.
Yeah, that was the second part.
And you're going to listen to it and you're going to smile because you have to.
Because you have to. The part of the speech was, quote, I always knew at times that I lived in a country. Should I do an Irish accent?
No.
That I lived in a country where if I tried to be myself at the time, it would have broken laws. But today that's all changed. Is his name Varadkar or I have a typo, either in one place or another place. I stand here as the leader of my country, flawed and human, judged by my political actions, not by my sexual orientation, my skin tone, gender, or religious beliefs. We are, after all God's children, which was great. I think it's Varadkar.
I'm pretty sure that's totally wrong.
Fuck.
You've insulted all of Ireland.
Well, I had Varadkar, and then I have Varadkar. So who knows what happened there? Do you have anything else?
No, we're good.
Okay. Anything you want to talk about besides your announcements?
No. If you like the projects I'm trying to do, patreon.com/Hemant. If you like the podcast, go to patreon.com/friendlyatheistpodcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be in Madison next week. Come on down.
Cool. I would like to point people to the latest episode of Pod Save America. They interviewed Lauren Underwood, who is a representative from around here. I volunteer in her campaign, and she is great. So that was fun. Also, guest of the show, Kenny Campbell, who I interviewed, friend of my family, who's an actor who has nothing to do with atheism, but I had a microphone. He's a cool guy. That interview came out maybe a month ago. His movie just started, Wonder Park. I went to see it with Mikey. We were the only adults without children in the theater at that Saturday matinee. It was weird and fun. And also, so this year, my Mikey turns 40, and we had to be in Rochester on his birthday for a wedding.
Yes.
So we are doing a big road trip around the Northeast, and we're going to visit a bunch of ballparks. So we're doing, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, D.C., Baltimore, Philly, New York City, Cooperstown, New York, Rochester, Toronto, and Detroit. And I've got an extra night in, I think, D.C. and New York City. So I may, if there's any interest, I may see if we want to do like a small meetup like I did in LA. Because there was like 8 people that showed up, which was a perfect amount of people. It wasn't overwhelming, but it didn't embarrass me that only one person showed up and like, please come celebrate me. Anyway, so that's going to be in like third week in August. So if I just wanted to put it out there, see if it gets any traction, and if it does, we'll try to put something in place.
More details to come.
Yeah, details TK. You can follow me on Twitter at Blueberry, BLUEBURIE.
I'm at Hemant Meta.
Yeah,
and
you can email us at friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com.
We'll be back next week, same bat time, whatever it is. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.